ultimately, like, what were your main takeaways from Mav Spurs?
Yeah, I think aside from the obvious with Dereck Lively, I guess we should start there for anyone who maybe hadn't seen it.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, the confidence that he played with, it was sort of shocking to see it so early in game one, because sometimes you see rookies that are confident, but they still have this like frazzled energy about them, but he
Yeah.
didn't. He looked very calm. He played very well alongside Luka. He was obviously listening to him and Kyrie as well. So it was just really nice to see him. As like from the second he got in there, you could feel it change the game, and so
Hmm.
that was amazing to see on night one. And I hope that they make that starting lineup change starting next game. It's not the type of thing that needs to sort of be like, oh, well, we'll just base it on matchup. In my opinion,
Yeah.
the continuity is important. You have got to just hit the ground rolling with that and move on from there. Tim
Well,
Hardaway
okay.
Jr. Yeah, go ahead.
My thing here is like, why not start him and Kleber both? Like,
Okay.
why can't you do that? Like, I mean, yes, you go a little bit big, but I
Mm-hmm.
think it gives you two different rolling options.
Yeah.
Kleber is more of a pick and pop guy. Lively, obviously. I mean, he did his best Tyson Chandler impression last night, and I think
No kidding.
the comp is very clear, just in terms of like the rim running, the shot blocking, et cetera, et cetera. I think ultimately, like, that's the mold he's kind of leaning towards anyways.
Yeah.
Luka was clearly really impressed with him last night too. I just think, like, you can play those types of players together, right? And it's not like Kleber is this slow, like not switchable type of defender. If anything, he's really good on that end, right?
Right.
He can guard multiple positions for you. I think you could go bigger. Like, if
Yeah.
and if the issue is size and length, then like go double big,
Yeah, and I'm glad that you said that, because I think a lot of people right now would say, oh, well, they want to start Grant Williams at the 4, and that's true, but the whole point of starting Derrick Jones Jr. was to get more size, more athleticism,
Mhm.
and I like Derrick Jones Jr. I like the fit. I think he's gonna play a decent role for the Mavericks this year.
Yeah.
But if you want to have that size, I agree with you. I think looking at Maxey and kind of looking how that could work, and you have the lob threat, pick and roll, and also the pick and pop threat with Maxey, you can go big and you can still have Grant Williams in there, and he may just not play the 4. And sometimes, I mean, you saw him, and I think a lot of people saw him get switched on to Wemby and get assigned to guard Wemby at certain points of the game. And so if they want to be selective with the defensive matchups like you would expect, they can still do that while rolling out a bigger lineup that does include Maxey. And so I thought it was interesting to see Maxey kind of get the nod on night one. I'm not sure what that means from when you're kind of looking forward to the whole season, how they view him as a starter, a potential starter. But if they want to go big and they have that same logic with Dereck Jones Jr., I think they should be asking the same question about Maxey Kleber.
Yeah, especially because Kleber can space the floor. Derrick Jones Jr. can't. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
and for all of his lob abilities and whatnot, I think Dereck Lively can do a lot of that stuff that Derrick Jones can do, and like, he gives you bigger size on that front. And I think Grant can play the 3. Like, he can guard, he can stay with threes a little bit.
Yep.
Obviously depends on what type of 3. But ultimately, yeah, I think that could work. And by the way, those are the type of guys that are going to give Wemby trouble. It's the big bruiser type that can kind of be low center of gravity. Like, I won't be surprised if there's going to be a moment where, like, I don't know, Kyle Lowry gives Wemby problems just because, big body type. Like, he's gonna have issues. I think those are the types of guys that are gonna affect Wemby in that type of way. What were your observations about that Mavericks defense, though? Because what did they give up to the Spurs? 119 points. Look,
119.
at the end of the day, they outscored them. Luka had 33. Kyrie had 22. They got a lot of points off of the bench. I think they scored like 40 points off of the bench. Like, they did what they had to offensively. But the defensive side of the ball, how'd you feel? How'd you feel about it?
It was not good. It was not good. And at the beginning of the game, it was kind of disheartening because they have had significant roster turnover this last season, and that was priority number 1, was the defense and the size and the athleticism. And I felt pretty solid about the guys that they brought in. I still feel solid about them, but it almost looked like they were disconnected. And it's the type of thing, in my opinion, that you hope self-resolves with some time, and again emphasizing the continuity. But there were just some times where I'm like, there were a couple of moments that looked like a lack of effort. There were a couple of moments that I was like, okay, that's kind of basic communication. That there's no, this is the Western Conference. There's no time.
You can't have any slippage. Yeah, exactly.
No nights off. And so it was frustrating, but I also was like, they need a solid lineup. They need continuity with the lineup. Even the bench guys, like what groups they kind of run with, just building the overall continuity, I think is going to help with the communication, because I do think that they have enough guys in Grant Williams, Josh Green, Maxey, Derrick Jones Jr., Omax, Derek Lively, enough guys to kind of bridge the gaps defensively. So I think that they will get there. But last night, to start the game, I can't remember. I was having trouble finding how much they gave up in the first quarter. I think it was like, it was a lot. It was a lot. And Luka mentioned it in the post-game press conference, and it sort of just like sucked the life out of the team, and they were spending the whole game catching back up. And so,
God damn, you were not wrong. They gave up 43 points in the first quarter.
It was hard to watch, because it's like, okay, I mean, the Spurs have solid players, but for this to be the tone that you set, that you're allowing in quarter one of game one of the season, not looking good. And so it was good to see them kind of be resilient and hang in there so they could close it out. But yeah, you can't be giving up 40 plus points in a quarter.
Yeah. That's not going to go very well.
It was kind of crazy to watch.
And like, it's also, you have to consider, like, this is a young Spurs team that they gave 40 points to. And like, I understand, we just talked up, how fun this Spurs team can be, maybe how competitive they'll be, but ultimately, like, they're one of the worst teams in the West, right? Yeah. How is this going to look against the Nuggets, right? On the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you're going to give up 150 points on that night. You know what I mean? Are you going to be able to score 175 points, Lauren Gunn? That's the question.
I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting enough, I think like that game, sort of showed you what the potential is for both teams, how they're trying to win also. And I think it'll be interesting to see, the minute restrictions for Wemby, how he looks on the foul front. That's obviously going to be something that, you got to keep your eye on, if you will. Maybe hold off on the defensive player of the year takes for now, but it is what it is. It's fun. Let's rock with it. It's the early season reactions and kind of like the overreactions for everything that we've seen. Hey, thank you so much for watching. If you want to check out a full episode of the Objective Basketball Podcast, the link is in the description. We'll see you guys there.